Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to our road long sections tutorial or lecture, whatever you want to call it. I have already covered a little bit of this, but I'm guessing this introductory lesson should have come before the video because it went into a specific example which we hadn't explored. So with road long sections or with longitudinal sections, you're essentially trying to represent on Autocad how you would go about altering your existing ground or your natural ground level to suit the requirements of the client. And at times you may need to cut some material, you may need to fill up some material. So this is essentially meant to show how we end up with the final result. So we're first going to explore the question. This is what it would look like. Never mind everything. So it starts from there saying a straight road has to be built from A to C. It could be A to B, A to Z, A to D, doesn't really matter. And it says use the given data in table 1 and sketch a longitudinal section of the road. Then we are given scales, which is a vertical scale of 1:50 and a horizontal scale of 1:1000. It's very important to note that because we will be using that information to essentially come up with our table layout or a long section layout, if that makes sense. Then we're given a table that has in column A your chainage distances in meters, and they normally are given at regular intervals. It could be at intervals of 30 or 40 or 50 or 100. It just depends on, which side of the coin you're at. And then you're given the natural ground levels of each of those in meters as well. These ones are normally not at regular intervals, they're just random numbers, but it's important to take note of essentially the pattern that we have on there. And then you're given your details on the side, your chainage, you're given the VPI chainage, and then the level at that specific VPI. You should also take note of that. Then we're given our final road levels at point A and C. So remember, point A is our starting point, point C is our end point. Essentially what needs to happen at the end and the beginning, and what we are trying to figure out is what happens in between the beginning and the end. Then we are given your curve length of 120 meters. Then that Y and A are just some formulas that we will be using. This information will normally be the standard information you are given whenever you are to complete an exercise for these road long sections, right? So it will be important for you to just note down certain information: your scale, vertical, horizontal, your chainage intervals or distance in between, then where your chainage is, the level at the chainage, like your VPI, then your final road levels, and then your vertical curve data. Vertical curve data, right? So first off, as soon as you have all that information, the very first thing you're going to do is to work out your spacings. Essentially, you're trying to work out how you are going to go about drawing your table. In as much as normally on Excel, it will just work out the spacings for you, but on AutoCAD, you essentially need to tell it how big, how wide, how tall you need your table to be. And we are gonna get that information from our given scales. Okay, so first off, there's a small calculation that we will carry out. Let me see if I can use the whiteboard for this, just to show that information. I'm trying to keep this lesson like as compacted as possible. I just want to compress it into one thing. All right, our whiteboard is behaving today. Now we just need to make it work. Now I just need a blank one. We can use blue, right? So to work out our spacings, we're gonna start off with the vertical one. Please forgive me if my handwriting is a bit, I hope this thing has a battery. It does not. Of course it doesn't. Anyway. That's a bummer. But in order to work out your vertical spacings, you essentially need to take note of the difference in elevation. So our elevations are the levels that we have, the natural ground levels that we're given, and it may be a bit of a tedious exercise to try and find the exact distance between each, because like I said, they're not taken at regular intervals. So you can assume that it's taken at about like plus or minus 1 meter intervals, because we have a 223.4 here, we have a 224.5, somewhere we have a 225.1, somewhere we have a 225.6. So we can just assume plus or minus 1 meter. It's a safe assumption, and you can use it in all your other exercises as well. 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. So remember, this AutoCAD, you're using millimeters. So in order to get your vertical spacing, you'd say that 1,000 millimeters times your 1 over the scale that we're given. So our scale is 1:50. That's why we're using a scale of 1 over. So 1,000 times 1 over 50, we have 20 millimeters. Similarly with the horizontal, but with the horizontal, you're going to use your chainage distances at 30 meter intervals as they are given. Some tables may give you at 40, 50, 100 meter intervals. It means you will use that 40, 50 or 100 and not 30. So remember, 30 meters times 1,000 gives you 30,000 millimeters. So in order to convert that to your spacing, you're going to say 30,000 times your scale 1 to 1,000. So it'll be the 30,000 times 1 over 1,000, and that gives you your 30 millimeters. I hope that makes sense. I would have loved to show it on screen, but my pen is not charged, and that's completely my fault. Anyway, with that information, you are able to start sketching up your table, and it's important to just have it noted on there, right? So step 1, you consider your scale. Step 2, you work out your layout spacings. Then step 3, you can draw your table skeleton and what I call your ruler or your subskeleton. Then from that point, you're essentially going to work out what values you're going to add to your table, right? So it's up to you to decide whether you want to first get all the calculations out of the way first and then start with AutoCAD or with the actual drawing. I don't think there's an actual manual or way to go about it. Any way that seemingly works for you would seemingly work for me as well. So with that information we can hop on over to AutoCAD and we can essentially try to sketch our table on here, right? So I haven't specified any layers yet for now, because at this point I'm assuming that you're able to. I'm gonna do that probably off camera and then return with completed layers. So we said we will have a vertical line. It's at this point we don't know how long it is, and then we have a horizontal line as well. Let's rather take it up or down, either way is fine. And we said our vertical spacings are 20 meters, so it means from this to the next line to the next line will be 20. So we can use our offset command. So you might have to just zoom in a bit because you can see there is quite a lot happening on screen. So up to so far we don't know how many of these we're gonna need, so you'll just go on and add as many as possible. Honestly, if you don't need it, you can always do away with it, but I always prefer to have more instead of having not enough and having to go back and repeat the whole thing over and over again. Right? Yeah, that looks healthy. It looks like a healthy amount. Then we said our horizontal spacings are 30 meters. So similarly, you're gonna have your offset command. Then we are gonna offset this one in order to get this as well. I think you can offset as many or as little as looks like is sufficient. Eventually with practice you tend to see a pattern and you're able to kind of see where you can kind of draw the line, but for purposes of this we'll just go on and on and on until we've essentially figured out where everything will lie. I think that looks like a healthy amount. If it does not yet, we will try and work something out, right? Then now we kind of have a skeleton and then a rule of thumb that we can use to essentially work out the values we're gonna add on here. We are gonna use the table that we had on here, and we're trying to essentially work out what the smallest number is or the least and the highest number is, and we're essentially gonna add 2 or 3 on both sides just to make sure that we kind of have our long section appearing somewhere in the middle. So the largest number on here appears to be 225.6, and the smallest number I would say is this 223.4. So we can say 220 would be the smallest, and then we can say maybe 230 to push it will be the largest, right? So we're working essentially between 220 and 230, and that will ensure that our long section will fall somewhere in the middle, right? So we can add our text. I think a text height of 10 should work. Okay, then we can say 230, and of course let's put it like that. Can just put it up straight. So what I normally do, I'll have 1 on there and I'll just copy it to all the rest, and then I'll edit instead of adding a text all the time. So 230, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. We definitely over designed, definitely, but we can keep it at that. That's fine. And then we can just edit the text. So we said that's 220, that's 221, 222, 223, 224, 225, oops, again, hey, 226, 227, 228, 229, 230. So don't worry about the fact that 230 is right up top, because remember we don't actually have a value that is at that level. We don't actually have a value that's the biggest like that, right? And then I mentioned something about coming up with a ruler, a bit of a ruler, or like a, no, not erase, let's trim. We can trim these ones off, and I really want to assume that we can trim these ones off as well. If we ever need them, we can always return them. So with our ruler, you'll just need 2 of these lines, then you can copy them somewhere aside. All right, all we need is to see the distance in between, and we're trying to come up with a ruler because remember, as it stands, my 2 palettes are still active and I'm not gonna need them. Let's just copy the numbers as well for reference. As it stands, we would have a 229 and a 230, but in an instance where we have a ground level of 229.5 or a 229.7, you wouldn't possibly be able to see it on here without carrying out some sort of an offset command, and obviously that will take time. So what we do right off the bat, you can offset at 2 millimeter intervals, and you're essentially gonna have your 229.2, 0.4, is it? No, 0.123, sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 should be the last one. Should be the absolute last one. Notice so far I'm working on the 0 layer. It's up to you if you want to do that or if you want to specify a layer, but for this we can add a layer that says our layout, then we can leave that as white, then add one that says our ruler, and we can make this yeah, we can give you a nice little color. We'll need one for our PVC. No, not that, not you. Then we can make it red. Then we'll add one for our EVC, and we can make it blue. Then we can add one for our VPI, and we can make it that. If there's anything else I've left out, I will probably remember as we move along, right? Then we can close that. So we've made our ruler one current. I'm trying to work with like half a screen here. Now I'm recording on my phone and it's obstructing my entire view. So we said just those ones. Remember, the first and the last are lines that we already have. The ones we need are just the ones in between. Then you can essentially copy those lines. Copy. You won't need the numbers as such, as long as you're able to remember where you are as you're working on it. Then, remembering the base point you used, you essentially just paste it over there. And this is just an additional measure you can take for the sake of accuracy. If you believe you will be able to keep going back, sorry, there's background noise and kids playing outside. If you're able to keep going back to the offset command each time you want to place a point, then by any means necessary, please do go for it. So eventually that's what my table ends up looking like, right? I hope we're all on the same page. I really hope we're on the same page. So now we've carried out step 1 through to 5. Then the next step, or what we can do, is essentially add our titles. Our titles remain constant and unchanged with every long sections exercise, and I would really recommend that you, I want to say memorize, because it's not really like, it's not a good way of doing things, but you should just know them, like know them. So there's about 7 of them. I don't know why I copied one. There is 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our table was definitely an overkill. I am sorry about that. There is a lot happening on this video. I forgot to turn off my son's Tilly, which I should be doing now. I have no idea why anyone is calling a 3-year-old. Anyway, where was I? Our table was definitely an overkill, so what we can do is trim the rest of it off. Because remember I said we're only going to need these 7 titles that we're going to add on there. So definitely everything going all the way down can trim and delete, right? So the first one on there, it might even be too close. Chain it. Should I use caps? Nah, we're fine. The next one is your NGL. Then we have our grade. Like I said, I'm working with half a screen, bear with me. Then we have our tangent grade. Then we have our offset. Then we have our final road level. Oops. Then we have our cut and fill. So cut if it's negative, that's a wrong bracket. Or fill if it's positive. Right, there we go. But you'll notice that now everything looks dodgy because they are just out there. They're just out there. So you can have just a young line here that'll kind of help us guide when we are moving these. And you can just move them straight. That might still be an overkill, but we're trying to do the right thing here. Excuse me. Then you can just extend those lines. You can multi-extend, like extend a lot of them at the same time. I prefer one at a time because I just find it soothing. Oh, there's a line we left out. Hey, Wena. Extend and tombo. Right? So obviously we'll need to move this girly up a little bit so everything looks proper. Then this girly can move there and we can close it off. Okay, then we can just use a specific layer. I have no idea what I selected. I'm trying to match the properties. Match prop. Right. And everything here can be under that layer. You want to make it easy to like freeze a layer or lock a layer so that whatever changes you make don't necessarily affect your entire table. Oh, kind of that one we still want it to be green. Yeah, then the rest we can just leave them as they are, right? And this is essentially how you come about, or how you go about preparing your long sections table. I know at this point we're like 25 minutes in, but with time it shouldn't take you 25 minutes. It can take you as little as 5 to 10 minutes to just get all of this on screen. But obviously I had to make it extended so that you guys understand. From this point, you can decide whether to lock these layers or not. It's really up to you. We can say that our layout, but freezing and off, these turn the layers off. When you lock it, it turns it off as well. Does it not? Does it not? It does not. It just locks the layer. Okay, great. You can lock the ruler as well. Then whatever changes you make, you're able to draw all over it. And if you ever need to, oh, it's the layer again. Undo. Sorry. I wanted to say whatever changes you make, if you're using a different layer and you ever need to erase, obviously if you select anything on that locked layer, it won't let you do it. But if you're gonna select like this, that, then it lets you make changes to it. So just be careful with the locking of layers. You can also leave them unlocked because sometimes it might just complicate life for you, or you can decide to lock them so that you're able to now add new stuff, make changes without affecting your table. But obviously that's if you are completely sure of your table. In the next video, we will go into the part where we start calculations and how we eventually represent what we've calculated on the actual longitudinal section table. Right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.